Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this third episode of Live 270. And once again, in the house, we've got my co host, Kevin. Welcome back.
Thank you, Danny. It's good to be back.
Yes, definitely. Well, it's exciting this week. As you know, the first Republican presidential debate is actually scheduled for tomorrow. And it appears that the front runner is not going to show up. I think it's the first
Imagine
time.
that.
Imagine that. I think it's the first time that the front runner has not showed up, but he's been busy.
He sure has. And not for good reasons either.
Not for good reasons. Oh my gosh. And by the way, Kevin, tonight after we're done going through the hard stuff, we've actually got a little comedy tonight. I've done some collection of some TikTok video memes and all kinds of stuff. I think we're going to find them pretty hilarious. And it's going to be a bipartisan comedy hour, that's for sure.
I think, first of all, I think that's good. We all need some laughter in our lives, especially now. And both parties are giving us plenty to laugh at.
Yeah.
Not with necessarily, but definitely at. Oh, and by the way, I cannot see you, Danny.
Oh, you can't? Oh,
I
that's
cannot. I
right.
can hear you just fine. But
Okay. Well, good thing you told me. I think you can see me now.
now, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. As I was going through some of the TikTok videos, I hate to say it, but there's sometimes I actually do miss Trump, but not for the reasons that you're thinking. It's for some of that funny stuff. But once again, it shouldn't be funny. I mean, it really shouldn't be funny, but you just can't help yourself, you know? It's kind of like,
Well, it's either we laugh, we cry, or we get angry. So
right.
we might as well laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing about all of this is I look at this stuff and I'm thinking, who has the time to put these things together? Because they chop these videos to the point that, if you're not a student of politics, you think most of the stuff what's on those little videos are real, and they're not, but they're funny,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Oh my gosh. But yeah, it'll be interesting tomorrow, no doubt. Let me go ahead and flip to the first screen, if you give me a second here.
Okay.
Give me a second here. All right, let's see here. All right, well, as you can see on the screen, I think you can see the screen. We talk about, is it over before it starts? And what I mean by that is there was a CBS poll conducted the week of August 16th through the 18th, and they pretty much, polled Republican primary voters. And the question was 2024 Republican nomination, who would you vote for today? And by the way, there's a plus or minus of 5.7 points. And not surprisingly, Donald Trump is ahead of all of his challengers by 62%. So, what the poll is saying, and I don't kind of believe polls a whole lot, one way or the other, but it says that 62% of primary voters prefer Trump over the rest of these guys. You know, what's your take on this? I mean, how real is this? Is this poll? And if I were one of these guys, I'd be pretty upset about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a big fan of polls because depending on how the questions are asked, they can be very skewed.
Yeah,
I mean, if the pollsters can get the answers that they want,
right.
if they so desire. So I'm not a big fan of them.
Yeah,
On the other hand, it's undeniable that there's a lot of anger and a lot of resentment about the way Washington is running things. And one of the big things that the mainstream media, I don't really like the term because even Fox is not as conservative as it once was.
right.
So they're kind of like more towards the center now that they were even 5 years ago.
Right.
But let's go with the mainstream media label for everybody else.
Right. The three networks in
Uh,
particular.
yeah, yeah. They talk about especially like picking on DeSantis for what he's done in Florida, some of the cultural aspects, and they say, how long are the Republicans going to fight the culture war? Where, well, the culture war got started by the left because they're the ones
Right.
who started attacking traditional values, right?
Right.
So a lot of people on the right, and I mean anybody even slightly right of center, is upset about some of those aspects, and that being upset uh, ranges to a lot of anger, right?
Right.
From mildly annoyed to angry. And
Correct.
so people look at all of these candidates and they say, who of those guys is really, and gal, because you got Nikki Haley there,
Right.
um, who is really going to fight? Who of those is a fighter?
Right.
And there is no question in anyone's mind that the only real fighter there is Trump.
Right.
Uh, and so, yeah, I don't really like polls. I don't really trust them. But I also do think that a lot of primary voters on the Republican side do still favor Trump if for no other reason because they know that he's going to fight.
Yeah. And I believe so. I think that, whether we like it or not, I mean, out of all of these guys, you definitely know that Trump is going to fight for whatever he thinks he's right on, right? I mean, but the thing about Trump is that I think he's annoyed both the left and the right because he doesn't seem to be tied necessarily to the right or to the left, and I think that's where a lot of his opposition comes from, is that his threat to drain the swamp really stuck a needle in both sides of the spectrum, because they want the swamp. They're happy with the swamp, you know, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when all of these senators from both parties and Congress people, whenever they leave DC, they don't really leave DC. They stop being in Congress, but they leave with a nice pension because even after 2 years, you can serve a one term, 2 years in the House of Representatives,
Right.
and that's enough to get you a full pension, right?
That's right. Yes.
So you can do that, leave, and you have a lot of them have, they all have bachelor's degrees. A lot of them have MBAs or law degrees.
Yeah.
The connections that they make, plus their pension, and they go out into the civilian market, and and they make a ton of money with contractors. A lot of them get into the defense
Right.
industrial complex, and so they benefit. Both parties
Right.
both benefit from the way things are being run.
Right.
So some cowboy comes in and says, "This is not benefiting the American people.
Right.
It's benefiting large corporations. It's benefiting politicians. We gotta get rid of some of this red tape. A lot of this, patting people in the back and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and let's make some money together. We're gonna get rid of this system." And so both parties are saying, "No, you're not."
Right.
So so that and before anybody gets the idea that I am trying to justify or defend Trump for any wrongdoings that he may have committed, I am not.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the guy wants, he understands business, and he was trying to run as president. He wanted to run the government,
Like a
at least to some
business.
extent, it's a business more efficiently. Kind of
Yeah.
like what Elon Musk did at Twitter. He
Right.
fired a bunch of people, and Twitter is working just fine.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
what were those people doing?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they
he
were
was
pencil.
inefficient.
They were pencil pushers, as I call
Right, right. So and that's what the federal government is,
Right.
right? They
The
expand
bureaucracy.
government, right? They expand the bureaucracy, and a lot of times they find tasks to do, and then you end up realizing that there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah.
And who benefits? All of the contractors, all the companies, whether it's in the military industrial complex, whether it's the pharmaceuticals, whether you name it,
Even
they benefit.
aerospace. Even aerospace.
Aerospace benefits, yeah. Everyone benefits, right?
Yeah.
All the large companies, regardless of the industry, they all benefit. In the politicians that are making connections, they serve it under these committees, subcommittees. They're supposed to be looking out for the American people, for the taxpayer,
Yeah.
right? Try to get the best product, say for defense, for example, but at the best possible price, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that the taxpayer gets the best bang for the buck. But they're not really doing that. And I saw this firsthand when I was working in the military, where they would, and I was at a low level, right?
Yeah.
My rank, it was pretty lower level, but I saw software engineering, right, where software that could have been done better.
Yeah.
Every few months, oh, we need to upgrade it. Well, boom, there's more money that the taxpayer has to pay, right?
Exactly.
And it's not just a few bucks.
Yeah.
So uh, that's why there's a lot of opposition to Trump. Also, not to mention the fact that he is a jerk.
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat it.
Well, it's one of the things, in the back of my mind, as he's gone through his legal troubles, and of course, even before then, is, even how much opposition he has within the law enforcement and the intelligence community. I mean, the FBI obviously has made it a point to come after him at every turn. The intelligence agencies, they're just not happy. I don't think they ever were. So I think they turned against him also as well. You know, uh, but in the back of my mind, I cannot recall, the outright, and they didn't even try to hide the fact. The FBI or the CIA or in any of those intelligence agencies never tried to hide the fact they didn't like him. They never did.
Yeah.
You know, so it is kind of strange in the back of my mind. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but he did get a lot of opposition that most presidents never did, you know. So, who knows? But if I were Ron DeSantis, which is the closest one, being the second one, I mean, my preference is DeSantis out of the rest of them, you know. But, he's also running into some opposition as well, so I don't know. And I don't know about Mike Pence. This guy, Ramaswamy, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience, and we'll go through that, But definitely these guys have got a long set of miles to climb to reach to Trump at 62%. Of course,
Oh yeah.
as they say, 1,000 years in politics is one day, and one day is like 1,000 years in politics,
Yeah.
Things can obviously change. I mean, he does have a lot of legal obstacles ahead of him, which, is a challenge, but you never know. I can honestly say you never count out 45. That's for sure. But speaking of 45, obviously, the first candidate we'll look at is Donald Trump. He is originally from New York, even though right now he lives in, what is it, Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Yeah. Florida.
But he's 77 years old. He went to a Wharton school. He's got a Bachelor of Science. He was the 45th president of the United States, from 2017 to 2021. And for his entire life, he's been the president of the Trump Organization. And those guys have been in construction, real estate development, entertainment. He's owned casinos, of which, by the way, I did get to visit one time his Taj Mahal casino.
Oh, did you?
In Atlantic City. Yeah, it was quite interesting. I still can't understand how a casino can go bankrupt. The casinos are not meant to lose money, but somehow his did. But okay, fine. I'll take it as it is, you know. And of course, he's into hospitality, which is hotel, retail, online shopping, and investments. Total revenue based on 2020 statistics is 450 million, and he employs about 22,450 employees, and that's a statistic from 2015. I don't know if it's necessarily accurate. It may be more, it may be less, but definitely this is the 800-pound gorilla in the Republican primary field right now. Obviously, he has been president before. I guess the question that I have, and I don't know if you haven't done any research. I mean, especially with some of his legal issues, could a president be convicted and serve as president? I don't know anybody knows the answer to that yet. I mean, we're stepping into areas that we've never been before. I mean, what do you think? You think if even for a misdemeanor, for God's sakes, even for a misdemeanor, forget anything major, but can you serve political office and be convicted? I don't know.
I think Jonathan Turley, who's a liberal Democrat, teaches, I think, at George Mason. He's a constitutional law scholar at one of those George Washington or Washington George Mason, one of the George and Washington combination universities. Um, and he writes I think it's a daily blog, and he has been writing a lot about the other legal uh, issues that Trump has. And he has been very critical of the way everything has been done around him, especially like starting with the raid that took place of Mar-a-Lago and some other things.
Right.
He's very measured in his criticisms, but he's a legal scholar, so he comes from that perspective. And being a liberal Democrat, uh, so his judgments carry a lot of weight.
Right.
Alan Dershowitz, another liberal Democrat, he's actually more. Dershowitz is actually more liberal than Turley. He's also been very critical, uh, and they both are saying, because I have been reading. I don't keep track of everything that happens every day on the news because there's a
Right.
lot of inaccuracies, whether it's
Right.
intentional or not, in the news.
Yeah.
But Dershowitz, and who's also constitutional uh, law professor, and Turley, and because they're liberal Democrats, I read, and Dershowitz has a podcast also.
Right.
So I follow them, um, and they're more reliable, I think, than even most legal analysis on Fox. So what they're saying is that it is uncharted territory, but they kind of lean towards saying that he probably could serve. Now, one of the things that I think I think it was Turley who sort of implied he didn't outright say it because it's uncharted territory, so he doesn't know for sure. But I think if I understood him correctly, so this is my interpretation of what he was saying, and so I think he was saying that it's possible that among the charges they have against him, it's like 91 or 94 charges against him right now as it stands. Four cases. Now, the one in New York, I think that's the one that has the most individual charges, but that's the one least likely to be of any significance
Right. The
because there's a
Stormy Daniels
history
one?
where
Is that the Stormy
that,
Daniels?
yes, that's the one with Elvin
Yeah.
Bragg in
Yeah.
New York. That one is like very politicized from the
Right.
get go. There's a history of rejection by Democrats and former uh, Democrat DA.
Yeah.
So that one's likely to not really carry a lot of weight.
Right.
But the other ones, especially the one in Georgia, classified documents that could be problematic for Trump. So potentially some of this stuff could carry over, like the Democrats and the prosecutors could leave some of this stuff hanging,
Right.
so that if he does win the nomination, they may try to convict him like after the nomination,
Right.
and then try to have that be used like some new legal theory, because it's never happened before, right?
Right.
So come up with some new legal theory where new legal interpretation of the Constitution where he would not be able to serve, because even though, since he's under Secret Service protection, that cannot be surrendered, right? They cannot take away that from him.
Right.
So he would not go to prison, but they could keep him like
Under
in
house
house arrest.
arrest. Yes.
Correct. So he could not serve if he's convicted in that way.
Right.
So it's again, it could this could end up being a constitutional crisis.
Oh,
Like if
absolutely.
he is likely to win the nomination as it stands right now.
Right.
And if I were, I don't gamble.
Yeah.
The only time I gambled was when I was in Korea and it was in a football pool,
Yeah.
and I won about, I got to a, I was up about $1,000, and it was getting kind of addicted. So I said, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
taking my money and I'm done.
Yeah.
But if I were betting, man, I would put money that he's gonna win the nomination,
Right.
unless something with the legal issues happens. I don't politically. I
Right.
don't think anybody's gonna dethrone Trump.
Yeah.
Not DeSantis, not Ramaswamy, not. I kind of like Tim Scott better
Yeah.
than DeSantis, because DeSantis, he's too much of a politician for me. He's
Right.
done good for Florida, but he's too much of a politician for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So I don't really trust him.
one of the thought processes I was talking to somebody the other day is, I mean, let's say if one of these convictions does warrant prison time or incarceration or house arrest. One of the, this individual that I was talking to was saying that, well, if he sees that there is a conviction, or if his lawyers see that is a conviction, one thing that could happen is he could pretty much do a plea or try to work out a deal where he drops, right, for no prison time. That's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
You know, any smart lawyer would tell their client to take a deal, right? But I don't know. Trump doesn't seem to be one that would even take a deal if offered, unless the writing was definitely on the wall. I mean, who knows?
I think if it comes down to misdemeanors, I don't think he will cut a deal.
Yeah,
If it involves several felonies, I think at that point he might be inclined to do that, just
right.
because of the ramifications for his business
His
in the
family,
future.
his
You know,
family.
it could, that could cost him money,
Yeah,
and he's at the end of his own, like closer to the end of his life.
right.
But his family, that could cost his family. So possibly that could happen, but I don't know. He's so unpredictable. Um, that's what kept when he was president. That's what kind of kept China, Russia, Iran, North Korea on their heels.
Yeah,
That he was an unknown.
yeah,
How is he going to respond?
yeah, yeah,
So who knows?
yeah. It's a tough situation. I mean, I don't get any pleasure in watching him go through what he's going through. You know, definitely. Yes, he's made mistakes. There's no doubt about that. But I really don't want to even think about what the next few months are going to look like. With regards to him, as far as going through, this whole process. I mean, we've never been this road before, and quite honestly, sadly, even in Mexico, you know very well that the presidents over there pretty much get away with murder. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of any president, other than, of course, who was that guy? Ceausescu in Romania that got hung, and Saddam Hussein, got hung, and I don't know, and of course Gaddafi. But as far as the modern world, I've never seen a president go to prison. As far as I know, you know, or I can remember. You know,
Yeah, and I think the Democrats really, I think they're going overboard. They want to humiliate him so badly. They're going overboard. And
yeah,
again, I'm not. If he's obviously done some things that are probably illegal. Like,
right,
I mean, I don't know. And you
yeah,
have to. The presumption of innocence is still part of our legal
exactly,
jurisprudence, right? So until he's proven guilty in a court of law, he's innocent.
yeah,
But the guy has brought a lot of stuff on himself for
exactly,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
And the Democrat, and he should have known that the Democrats were after him. He should have been more careful. He should have done things by the book. Um, so there's no excuse for him. On the other hand, I think in the country, like I was saying earlier, anybody that's even slightly right of center, they're seeing how overboard the Democrats are going. Anybody on the left is going after him, and they're saying, "Oh no, we're tired of this. We're gonna fight." And so that's why you see if those numbers are accurate in that CBS poll,
yeah,
that's a result. That's
yeah,
partly a result. There are a lot of people. What's her name? Uh, Tommy Lahren, I think is her name. Um, she's a blonde Fox contributor, pretty young, just a fiery young lady.
yeah,
She has been a staunch
yeah,
Trump supporter. Even she is saying Trump needs to just drop out,
yeah,
and people need to stop defending him so blindly. And
yeah,
I'm with her. Like, the guy's brought a lot of stuff on himself, and the Democrats needs to be measured
yeah,
on their prosecution of the guy.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, prosecute the stuff that he's done illegally, and if he's risked national security and those kinds of things, that's those things need to be dealt with properly. No question about it.
do you think
But
that, do you think because, one of the things, as I was thinking back, I mean, you and I are old enough to remember the days of the old Republican Party. And there is no doubt that today's Republican Party is not the party of Ronald Reagan any longer. It became a more populist party. Maybe it started with the Tea
for
Party.
sure,
I don't know, but definitely the old country clubber Republican Party of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush is no longer. In fact, I was thinking about something. If you really think about the last 30 years, one of the things that has happened is that there's been a paradigm shift in the Republican Party from being the party of Ronald Reagan to now this party led by Donald Trump, Uh, and you don't have to go too far. For example, economics, I mean, there was never this, anti what do you call it? Anti-globalist, you know, anti-NATO, anti-this that the Republican Party under Trump came about. I mean, that was never unheard of back in the old days. It was always about lower taxes. It was always about, you know, um, lower taxes, less regulation. It was about expanding, global economic commerce across. And once Trump came in, he didn't mind applying tariffs. Tariffs were a thing, were a taboo back in the old Republican Party. Not with Trump. Uh,
that's true. But and I'm a Reagan baby, right? I
right.
love Reagan,
Yeah.
and it's someday I'll tell you. I remember the day that I became a Reaganite. I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
The story I'll say some other time. Uh, but but the nature of the U.S. economy and the world economy has changed also.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of tariffs.
Yeah.
On the other hand, China for example, mainly China. I mean, we're losing billions and billions of dollars to China on trade and in intellectual theft,
Right.
intellectual
Especially
property, right?
intellectual theft. They copy the crap out of everything. And they don't mind
Everything.
doing it.
And not only do they copy what's open source, they go out and steal
Right.
uh, intellectual property from the free market economy, but they also go into the military and they steal military
Right.
secrets, right? Um, and so, how do you balance the free market economy and national security
Yeah.
in a global economy where everything in the supply chain, which is a problem for national security, also? How do you balance that out,
Yeah.
right? Because all of those things are interconnected.
Right.
And if you don't put a limit, or if you don't put safeguards in the supply chain that affects trade and the transfer of goods and services, mainly goods, uh, across, say, the Pacific between China and us, well, that's going to affect the availability of some jobs in the U.S.
Right.
Right? That affects the economy, but also it's affecting national security potentially.
Right.
Like, they can put components in our in say, uh, computers or other components that they may uh, build and have sent to the U.S. They go into our, say, our airplanes or our communication systems, things
Right.
of that nature. So even though I'm a free market guy in
Yeah.
the line of Ronald Reagan, things have changed since Reagan was president. And so,
That
how do
is
you
true.
deal with those things?
Yeah. Because, I
People,
mean,
oftentimes people ignore those changes.
right. Yeah. And I agree with you. It's hard for somebody like you and me who grew up during the Reagan era. I've always said that I'm an unapologetic globalist, free trader, low taxes, less regulation. I'm sounding like an old Republican, to be quite honest with you. And I would probably be called a rhino in today's Republican Party, because that's just not what it is. And towards the end of the show, we're going to see some of these people, and I'm not stereotyping, don't get me wrong, but some of these people, I hate to say it, I don't know what trailer park they came out of, but they're not golfing at the country club. I will tell you that. That
Yeah.
Republican is gone, you know. And it's really interesting, the way that, has turned about. I mean, what that means to the future of the Republican Party, I don't know, you know. But definitely Donald Trump has left an imprint probably for a decade or two. you know, and I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know what that means overall. But I can see how those other guys are having a hard time, having any traction because he is the 800-pound gorilla no matter which way we look at it. But let's go ahead and flip over to the next guy, Ronald DeSantis. You know, he is the current governor of Florida. He's only 44 years old. He's a young guy. He graduated out of Yale with a BA, and he's got a law degree out of Harvard. He served in the U.S. Navy from 2004 to 2010, active duty, and then he served in the reserves from 2010 to 2019. And of course, his current rank is lieutenant commander. Um, he served in the U.S. House of Representatives, 6th District from 2013 to 2018, and he was elected governor of Florida in 2019. So, how do you feel about Ron DeSantis overall? What's your take on him?
I mean, I think he's done well for Florida.
Yeah,
He stood his ground during COVID. I think that's really when he made his name. Uh,
right,
the way he handled the the shutdown of the economy, or not the shutdown of the economy in Florida. I mean, he went against the grain, against the federal government in a lot of things. He's been a a culture warrior, if you will,
Right.
which I have a lot of respect for because a lot of there's an increasing number of people. In fact, I'm reading a book right now, and I won't say the name because I don't want to. I'm not done with it. I just
Eh,
started last night, and so I don't want to say anything negative because I don't know exactly where it's going.
Yeah.
But from the first couple of chapters, it's a trend that I'm seeing in a lot of what we call traditionally evangelical Christians. I see a pattern of a lot of people kind of not wanting to fight the culture war. It's like they're tired of the culture war, right?
Right.
So they're starting to give in, even in sometimes in small things, sometimes in bigger issues, right?
Right.
And so DeSantis has stood out because he has stood his ground in things that are important to a lot of parents, especially.
Right.
So I have a lot of respect for him, but once he declared or once he started to show interest uh, in the presidential race, and he started to put himself out there towards that goal before he announced,
Right.
he started to sound too slick for me and like playing board games and playing mind games.
Right.
And that I don't like because then it's like, okay, so this guy is gonna kind of spit in the wind and see where he goes.
Right.
And he may have convictions and he may know where he wants to go, but he's also going to kind of take a measure of where things stand and then kind
Politically.
of go with the flow.
Right. Politically.
That's not what yeah, exactly. It's like that's not what a leader does.
Right.
This is the right way to go, and this is where we're going to go,
Right.
period.
Right.
And so, in a word or in a phrase, I don't like him
Yeah.
that much anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
I guess,
yeah, my concern,
no, go ahead.
yeah, my concern is obviously, we were talking about this the other day. We've got this issue down here in Brownsville, with SpaceX and the FAA. We're still going for a second IFT launch here coming up, but the FAA may be the hindrance. But and obviously, I was telling somebody, the Biden FAA is going to do whatever it takes to keep the environmentalists down here happy and the environmentalists in general happy. So, in my opinion, if an IFT launch does not occur this year, you can forget about next year because the Biden FAA is not going to want to piss off the environmentalists next year, you know. So they're tied to these environmental groups. But then, as I was telling somebody, let's just hypothetically say that Ron DeSantis gets elected as governor of Florida. I'm not so sure we're going to have any any better friendly FAA with him because he is from Florida. They have a vested interest of keeping that activity in Florida,
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting. I personally like the guy, but I am concerned about the fact that he is from Florida because obviously of what's happening down here with regards to SpaceX. I mean, we're already having a tough time with the Biden FAA. I'm not so sure that a DeSantis FAA would be any friendlier, maybe worse, So that's where my thing is about him. But he's definitely been a guy not afraid to fight the culture war. There's no doubt about that, which is usually unusual, for a lot of politicians. They try to sway away from that. And you're right. I've seen even in the evangelical circles where we seem to not want to offend anybody anymore. You
right.
know, I saw it a few months ago when we had when the culture war came down here to Brownsville. With regards to painting sidewalks in rainbow colors and stuff
Yeah,
like that. They just had a thing at a local bookstore just here. That whole group of they had this kind of like pep rally down there about books that supposedly are banned. I mean, back in your day and my day, I think the most books that got banned was what, Catcher in the Rye. Can't remember what other one. But now, they want to allow these books that pretty much spread their beliefs, and they want them to be distributed in schools, as part of the curriculum. So he's been pretty, forthcoming with regards to the culture war and not being afraid to do that. And for that, I give him a whole lot of credit,
Yeah, for
for that.
sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
no doubt about it. All right, let's look at the next one here. What happened? There we go. All right. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. He's 57 years old. I didn't realize he was older than you and I.
Not by
Charleston's,
much.
not by much, but somewhat there. Uh,
We're old.
yeah. Charleston Southern University. He's got a BS. He served in the U.S. House, First District from 2011 to 2013. He served in the South Carolina House for the 117th District from 2009 to 2011. Then he was a county councilman. I guess that's kind of like a county commissioner, what we consider a county commissioner in the 3rd District from 95 to 2009. And I know you had told me you weren't sure about his what kind of member he was, but I kind of left it there. But he served on the aging committee. I don't know if he served in any other committees. I don't know how many committees you can actually serve in the Senate, but definitely he has served on the aging committee. So, what's your take on Mr. Scott, Senator Scott?
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. He's got a story, from his uh, family being coming from very,
Poor.
being, what's that? Very poor.
Right.
Uh, and him ascending all the way to being a U.S. senator, uh, and now even a presidential candidate. But not only that story, that he's the whole narrative, the view pushes a lot of systemic racism in the U.S. That they push that narrative, right? And he was there a couple of months ago, and I can remember the name of the one of the ladies there, not Whoopi Goldberg, but the other black lady, younger lady.
Oh, I quit watching them a while back. I only thought they
Yeah,
had
well, I
one.
don't watch the show, but I saw the clip, the exchange between him and that other younger lady, and she said, speaking about about systemic racism and how there are not that many African Americans that are as successful as they are, because he was saying that no, systemic racism does not exist. She's saying that it does, and that her proof is that there are not that many African Americans as successful as Tim Scott and as she is. And my response to, I don't think he said, he gave her some other response. My response is, well, because she's saying that they are the exception,
Right.
and there are different several reasons for that. One, well, there are not that many jobs. There's only 100 senators,
Right.
so of course he's the exception. There cannot be a lot of African American senators.
Right.
Uh, just like there are not that many Mexican American. I mean, how many Mexican Americans senators are there?
Oh, maybe what, one or two, if you include
Uh, uh,
Ted Cruz, but he's Canadian though.
no, in Cuban,
Cuban, yeah.
he's,
Rubio,
he's a Mexican American.
yeah.
Rubio, is he Mexican?
No,
No, I think he's Cuban too.
I think he's Cuban too.
Right, so there are no Mexican Americans. So you can go down the line, and there are all of these exceptions that are not there.
Yeah.
And so
Hey,
so
we
because
we almost had one.
that's
Remember, it was what's his name? What was his name? O'Rourke. What was his first name?
yeah, Beto.
Beto. Yeah, Beto.
I made a meme that said Beto is no vato. um, but so they're limited slots, and for the job of this lady at the View, well, there's only 4 slots in the View, right? And they have 2 black ladies, they have 1 blonde, and I think they had 1 redhead or 2 blonde, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, so that's one reason why there are not that many people in their positions. Another reason is not everyone works as hard as Tim Scott and that other lady.
Right.
Right there's a work ethic. There's not for academics, and then the opportunities where you are at the right place at the right time. There's a lot of factors that go into this thing, right?
Right.
But the fact that Tim Scott showed up to the View after Whoopi Goldberg, who happened to not show up the day after she said that Tim Scott and Clarence Thomas, that they didn't know the struggles of black men. Really? No, not Whoopi Goldberg.
Joyce
What's her
Bahar.
face? Yes,
Yeah.
she said that Clarence Thomas and Tim Scott did not know the struggle of black men. Doesn't she know their background?
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas came out of poverty too.
Yeah.
So going back to Tim Scott, his story, um, and the fact that he has stood his ground as a Christian man, he has no baggage. He stands his ground for his principles, for conservatism. That he's a well-spoken, articulate, very measured in his debates. As far as I'm concerned, now I don't know what his foreign policy views are, so I'd be interested to know what that is. But as far as his economic views, to the extent that I've heard him articulate those, and his social views and domestic policy, I'm all for Tim Scott.
Right.
And I think he's more in line with the Reagan uh, view of government and foreign policy and those kinds of things.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't I would vote for Tim Scott over DeSantis.
Yeah. Well, one of the others, obviously, is Nikki Haley. She served. She's out of South Carolina. She's 51 years old. Slightly younger than you and I. Clemson University. She's got a BS. She served as 116th governor of South Carolina. Still trying to figure out how they get to 116, but okay, that's for another day.
Yeah.
You know, uh, South Carolina House of Representatives, the 87th district from 2005 and 2011, and recently she served as the 29th UN ambassador uh, during the Trump administration from 2017 to 2018. What's your take on Nikki? I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, she's been an impressive ambassador, but I'm not sure much of anything else for that matter.
She checks all the boxes for me
Yeah,
too. Like I think she would be a warrior. She was feisty at the UN,
yeah. No
right?
doubt about that. Yeah, she was definitely feisty.
She was feisty, very pro US.
Yeah,
She defended American policies. She stood up with Trump and supported. Earlier, you said something about like nobody had been anti-NATO. I don't. Trump says a lot of things in the way he speaks. Sometimes he's very hyperbolic in the way he speaks.
right,
I don't think he was necessarily anti-NATO, like in terms of the essence. I think his language was more like prodding NATO to step up and pay up to their commitments that they haven't been paying or investing their commitment, like 2-3% of their GDP in national defense.
right.
Okay, they have not been doing that,
Yeah,
and so who's been covering that? The U.S. That means the U.S. taxpayer. When we say the U.S. has been paying, it's not some mythical creature dispensing gold from the heavens or some ethereal place.
right,
It's money that you and I and every hardworking American pays to the U.S. Treasury, that money has been going to pay for NATO defense. And
Right.
what Trump and Nikki Haley at the UN and other places were saying is people need to pay up their fair share, right?
Right.
So I understand NATO and the UN are two different entities,
Right.
but Nikki Haley was doing the same thing that Trump was doing with NATO. Nikki Haley was doing it at the UN,
Right.
very pro-America, and I think she would carry that as president. She's a female. She's young, healthy, energetic. She's a, she's Indian. She's got executive experience,
Right.
legislative experience. I mean, what's not to like?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot to mention, yeah, that she was Indian American or American. I mean, Indian American. I'm not going to say American Indian because that's a whole nother that's a whole other classification.
Right,
It's
right.
you know Indian American, far different. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I mean, she could always be a great vice presidential candidate. You know, um, it'll be interesting to see. Where she goes. She's still fairly young.
Yeah.
So she's
I
got a
think
lot
she
of
can be a dynamic speaker also.
yeah,
But it depends who's judging the speeches. But I
yeah,
think she articulates her views pretty clearly, pretty well, in my opinion.
yeah,
So
yeah. All right, let's see who else is on. Oh, Mike Pence. He's out of Indiana, 64 years old. He went to Hanover, got a BA, graduated out of Indiana University with a law degree. He served as 48th vice president from 2017 to 2021 under the Trump administration. He was governor of Indiana for 2013 to 2017. And then he served in the House of Representatives twice, once in the second district from 2001 to 2003, and then elected in the sixth district from 2003 to 2013. What's your take on Mike Pence? I mean, obviously, he was vice president of the United States. Definitely has executive experience being governor. There is no doubt where he stands when it comes to, family values, the culture war. He definitely held his ground in Indiana when he was governor. What's your take on the former vice president?
I have a lot of respect for Pence. He has a lot of experience as an executive, so I think he would be able to handle the office. Like you said, the way he has held his ground um, in the culture wars. One of the things that people made fun of him, and I even had this debate with, of all people, with some Christian friends of mine, that I was baffled that they thought he was being uh, I forget the word that they use. Start with an M. Anyways,
Yeah.
when the whole subject came up that he would not have a meeting along with another woman or something like that, or he
Oh, yeah,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah, yeah,
travel with
yeah.
another woman. When that whole thing came up and people would make fun of him and all kinds of memes work out and just mocking the guy, and it's like you have the guy running for president. The criticism of him is the things that he has said about grabbing a woman's what,
Right.
his record of having extramarital affairs. So you're criticizing that behavior and that history, the fact that he's divorced. His vice president is the exact opposite. He's being respectful of his marriage, respectful of other women, of not putting himself in compromising positions. And you're criticizing that too. So what do you want?
I've said
You
that
have
for a long time.
like my goodness, the Democrat Party has a history of precedents. Let's just go to FDR. He died with his
Mistress.
mistress by his side. They had to hide her so that his Mrs. Roosevelt could show up to the house.
Right.
JFK and Bobby
Marilyn
Kennedy,
Monroe.
male men that were doing Monroe at the same time,
Yeah.
and we know all about Bill Clinton and on and on
Right.
and on. And now here you have a guy who's being careful to do the right thing by his wife and by extension the women around him, and you're mocking the guy. So,
Yeah.
anyways, he also, for me, and this is very unpopular with a lot of populist Republicans.
Right.
You alluded to that populism that I've criticized before too. That we've lost, I think our compass, our conservative compass, with that a lot of populism. I think some of it was kind of necessary, but I think we've gone overboard. But
Yeah.
anyways, um, the whole January 6th
Right.
and what Pence did, I think he did the right thing.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. That's my conviction. And there's unless some revelation that we have not discovered yet
Yeah.
were to come to light, somebody shows a video or something that happened that completely uh, destroys or disproves anything that he said or did, he did the right thing to avoid undoing our constitutional republic and our representative democracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he showed a lot of character because there are a lot of other men and women for that matter that would have broken and just succumbed to the pressure that he was facing.
Well, look at Rudy Giuliani. You know what he's thrown
Yeah,
away. I mean, this was
yeah.
America's mayor. You know, he was a lawyer. He knew the law better than most people did. And he's done things that Pence, have being a lawyer himself, would have not done. Would have not done.
People that people that supported Pence and praised Pence back in 2016 despise him now
Yeah.
because of how he stood his ground on January 6th. And I don't understand that inconsistency.
Yeah. I don't
I,
either.
I do not understand.
I don't
But
either.
whatever you think of Pence, now he lacks charisma. He's very robotic. He seems like everything is prepared, like everything is calculated. I don't think it is. It's
Hey,
just his demeanor.
hey, Kevin, give me 1 second. I've got a call. I've got to answer.
Okay.
Hello. Uh, doors open. Sorry about that. It's my daughter was trying to get into the house.
It's okay. And so I think that's in certainly in today's presidential politics, especially where uh, he has a lot of gravitas, but all of a sudden gravitas is irrelevant. Now you want somebody who is popular, who is hip, who can relate to young people,
Right.
who you people want that, and he just doesn't have that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I believe that's part of the problem with him is that you're right. He's not hip or he's not funny. The other thing, he's not funny. You know, I mean, a lot of people, who gravitate to Trump is because they think it's a 24-hour comedy show. But,
Yeah.
you know, ay, ay, ay. Well, let's see who else is on the list here. Chris Christie,
Oh my
University,
gosh.
60 years old. He graduated out of the University of Delaware with a BA. He went to Seton Hall University, got a law degree from there. His biggest thing was that he was United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey, 2002 to 2008. He did quite a bit of high level convictions, including, by the way, uh, imprisoning Trump's son-in-law's father. What was the guy's name? Jared Kushner's father for wasn't it tax evasion or something like that? That's
I don't remember.
yeah. Prior to that, he basically was member of the Morris County Board of Chosen Freeholders. I guess he was a county commissioner. He's chaired the opioid and drug Abuse Commission in 2017, and he served as the chairman for the Republican Governors Association for a couple of years, 2002 to 2008. This guy's been running for president for a while.
Yeah.
What's your take on Chris Christie?
I don't know too much about him. I don't follow him all that much. I just, catch whips of him on the news. Um, Mainly on Twitter, actually. That's where I spend a lot of my time because I follow a bunch of historians
Yeah,
and a couple of scientists, physicists on Twitter, and so I follow a lot of stuff on Twitter. But those that and some podcasts on national defense. That's where I spend my time on Twitter, and so I catch stuff on Christie. I don't like him.
yeah,
Um, I don't think he has any substance
yeah,
because he acts like a bully. Now, I don't
yeah.
necessarily. It's not that I don't like.
Very New
It's not that I don't like.
Joycey. Very New
Yeah, it's
Joycey,
not.
as they
Yeah,
say.
it's not that. Yeah, and it's not that I don't like bullies. Like I can be a bully myself. It's not necessarily that I don't like that. I like that feistiness, uh, but it's like he's a bully, and it comes as being not genuine. It's like
Right,
he's doing it because it's a New Jersey thing and because he's gonna get him political points.
right.
Like he's attacking Trump and I think he's going overboard. And I think he's doing I actually my theory on Christie right now is that he knows he's not gonna win the nomination. He knows that.
Right,
But his goal is to take out Trump.
right.
I think that's his goal in life.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't like that. I don't like for people to do that to be destructive just for the sake of being destructive of another person,
well, there probably
especially
was.
somebody.
Yeah, there probably
No, go
was a
ahead.
reason why he didn't get any position in the Trump White House back in those days. Remember?
Yeah,
I mean, they.
yeah.
I remember him being called for this position and that position. At the end of the day, he got no position. Se quedó con el plato, fully empty.
And
And
he's smart enough, and he's been a one of those shining lights. Like it's one of those lights that's out there in the Republican Party that people see and they know he's there, and he could have been a someone of actual substantive influence in the party had he not been such a jerk
right,
just for the sake of being a jerk.
right,
Um, but he chose to play that role, and it backfired. And right now, he's doing the same thing. And if he remotely thinks that he's gonna win the nomination by being a jerk and just going after Trump like an attack dog, my opinion, am not. I don't. I'm not. I don't do this for a living. So what do I know? But I think he's completely wrong. I think
yeah,
he's off the rails.
yeah. Well, he definitely. Every time I see him, it almost seems like I think he's Tony Soprano's neighbor or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one.
you know. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Oh, this guy, and it took me a while to kind of pronounce his name, Vivek Ramaswamy, and I hope I got it right. He's out of
Yeah, that's right.
Ohio. Now, he's the youngest out of all of them, I believe. He's got a BA out of Harvard, a law degree out of Yale. The only thing about him is he's only been a co-founder and an executive chairman of Strive Asset Management. I don't know what they do, but I don't know a whole lot about this guy. What's your take on this guy?
I like his persona, his dynamism. I like that he's coming at this with a lot of fresh ideas.
Yeah,
Like he's been thinking through a lot of issues, and he's coming up with fresh, like new ideas.
yeah,
The problem is his ideas show a lack of experience.
Right.
A lot of the things he says are like, dude, that's very counterproductive to say national defense. Like on the economy, he's gonna have a better understanding of the economy than I have.
Right.
Obviously, his financial success and his education at Harvard and Yale show that. Right, he's gonna
Right.
know more than I know. But when it comes to national defense and pushing away Israel and kind of decoupling our alliance with from Israel, he just said something to that effect recently. That's a losing proposition.
Right. In both parties. In both parties.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not
yeah.
going to fly.
That's well for national security purposes.
Right.
Like they are our one solid ally in the Middle East. We
Right.
can count on Israel, right?
Right.
Um, but it has ramifications far beyond just the Middle East.
Right.
Uh, there are other things that his lack of experience shines through. So I think he's pushing people to think in other ways. So I think him being in the race, I think is beneficial in different ways.
Yeah.
One, pushing people to think outside the box because he's definitely doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but also he can be kind of like a bridge to attract younger people, people from the tech sector, people that are in the Twitter universe and that kind of thing. And or now it's X or what's it called now?
It's called X. Correct. Yeah.
X now, right? And maybe he'll attract younger people. He's only like 38, right?
Right.
And he's very dynamic. He's got a young family, very family traditional values oriented. So he's got everything going for him, and I would support him if his ideas were more realistic. Let me
Right.
put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Next guy. I'd never heard of this guy before. Doug Burgum,
Me neither.
North Dakota. He's 67 years old. He is graduated from North Dakota State with a BA, Stanford MBA. He's the 33rd governor of North Dakota, got elected in 2016. I didn't know this. I had heard of Great Plains Software. I follow Microsoft quite a bit, but he was president from 1993 till the time it was sold off to Microsoft. And then once it was sold off to Microsoft, he served as senior vice president of Microsoft Business Solutions for 6 years. And he's now the founder of a real estate development company called the Kilborn Group. But I followed Microsoft for a long time. Maybe I followed the wrong guys, or maybe the more popular guys at Microsoft. But I never heard of this guy. And obviously, I can't remember the type of software that Great Plains Software actually developed. I had heard the name. I just don't know exactly the type of software they sold. But pretty impressive, resume overall. Business background. Like I said, I've heard absolutely nothing about this guy. Um, so I really don't have much to say about him, to be honest with you. I like the fact he worked for Microsoft, but beyond that, I don't know anything much about him. You know?
Well, he doesn't have any baggage, right? Any
Right,
personal baggage.
right,
I did a little bit of research on him, so he's got that going. He's got an understanding of the tech sector, which is important.
it is
He
important.
understands the economy. He understands real estate. He's got executive experience. He's at a good age, 67, so he's got experience. He's seen the economy work from the public and the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now that should almost it should not a constitutional requirement, but that should almost be like one of those things that as a voter we need to be looking for candidates, certainly for president, to have that kind of experience, not someone who's been in the public sector their entire career,
Right,
because they're so there's they're that's part of being in the swamp. And all you know is how the bureaucracy works. So you're gonna do it the way we've always done it because that's the way we've always done it, and we're not
Right.
gonna change it.
Right.
But if you come with, uh, well, I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to go too long. Let me say this instead. I read an article in it's a blog from the Modern War Institute, and it's about the army becoming more modern or
Mm-hmm.
modernizing. And the army during the Trump years, they set up the future uh, Army Futures Command on the campus of UT Austin.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the campus of UT Austin. And this article also says that the Marine Corps, and within that Army Futures Command, the Army set up a software engineering program. And this is soldiers, this is active duty soldiers doing software engineering.
Wow.
And the results are like off the charts. Like army leaders are like almost in disbelief that soldiers are doing this,
Right.
looking not 10 years ahead, but 20, 30 years ahead and developing stuff for the future. That's what the command is called.
Right.
Well, the army did a like a show thing for the other services and defense contractors, and the Marine Corps was so impressed. So the Marine Corps said, "Hey, we want to do the same thing."
Right.
So the Marine Corps is gonna set up the same thing with Marines in the Army building in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, this article is saying that's what the Defense Department needs to do: modernize and be agile, be able to adapt almost in real time to what's going on in the tech sector in the real world for defense purposes, right?
Right.
The bureaucracy by definition goes against that. It wants to do the way things have always done. It is resistant to change. And we need people in office with the experience of the outside world, how the economy works, to be able to run our government in efficient ways. And
Correct.
that's going to mean a leaner government. People going to have to get fired,
Right. Right.
right? To
Absolutely.
make it to make it leaner, but make it more efficient. Because the government is not designed, it's not supposed to be set up so that government employees benefit.
Right.
It's supposed to serve the people of the United States.
Right. Yeah. Well,
So I like this guy.
yeah, this guy definitely has a resume. No doubt about that, you know. Let's see here. All right. Well, we're going to flip to some fun stuff now. Let me go ahead and get that going here for a second. We're introducing um right there. All right. So, I figured we'd do something different today. We're going to introduce the 270 comedy clips.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this.
And they're just clips of different TikTok videos that people have put together, and I'm like in shock that people have a whole lot of time to do it. But here we go. But it kind of feeds into what we've been talking about with regards to Trump and Biden and some of these other candidates, and the psychosis of why some people like Trump or not. But I think these videos are gonna kind of wrap this evening pretty well. But I find them kind of funny. But here we go. Here we go. All right, let's see what this one is at.
The most dangerous time in the history of our country, and Joe Biden is leading us into oblivion.
Can't hear it.
He's leading us into oblivion. You know, we all
Can you hear
smile
it?
when he falls downstairs and things. It's
I
cute.
can't hear it.
When he falls
can't hear
off
it?
his
Hold on.
bicycle, isn't this good? You know what amazed me? That the reporters didn't catch him
on.
when the bike was going down.
You aren't able to hear it?
No.
Huh. Hold on one second. Let's see here. Let me see. You should be able to hear it. Hold on. What am am I doing wrong? Oh, hold on. Hold on. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Full screen settings. Oh. No wonder. Hold on. Okay, default speakers. Should be able to hear it. Let's see. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think we're good. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Give me a second here. All right, let me know if you hear it.
Yeah, they're standing right next to him. They let him fall.
You can?
No,
No?
I cannot. Nope.
It's weird. All right. Well, let me see here. Give me a second. You should be able to hear it. Oh, hold on. Give me a second. Of course, Daniel. All right, give me a second. Let's try it again. How about now?
Nope. Still
No?
cannot. Nope.
Hold on. Hold
This is dangerous time.
Can you hear me now? Okay, hold on. Something went wacky. Hold on. Let's see here. Can you hear me? There's an echo. That is weird. Okay, let's see here. I think I know why. Let me hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Oh, I know why. How about now? Can you hear me? Still an echo? Still with an echo, huh? How about now? Can you hear me now? Okay, hold on. Let me hold on. Let me Okay, how about now? Can you hear me? Really?